Good evening, everyone. This is Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 806. We're joined by a former NBA player, John Lucas III. Now he trains young kids in basketball. He's a training coach. And I'm joined by Vedant Gupta from Global Media, his show, and as a co-host. And first of all, John, I just want to say thank you for joining the show today. It's truly an honor. And how are you and your family doing so far?
Everybody's great on this end, just staying safe, just staying locked in, really. But thanks for asking. Everybody's doing pretty good on this end.
Yeah. So I'll let Vedant start off here first.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of get straight to it. Right now is the peak of the NBA playoffs, of course. Games happening constantly, a lot of excitement there. I want to know, what are your predictions? Give everyone your overview. What's your Western Conference Finals looking like, your Eastern Conference Finals, and your finals?
Tell you the truth, I haven't watched too much basketball as much this year, just because I'm in the gym and being on the West Coast, I miss all the East Coast games and mostly Central games. So I usually only catch like the Lakers when I'm not on daddy duties. But as I caught a couple of the playoff games so far, with Embiid getting hurt and having a slight meniscus tear, which was said today on ESPN, that's going to kind of hurt Philly. But then again, I think that should be good to get past DC. But that means they'll be playing who in the next round? The winner, Atlanta or
New York and Atlanta. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And if Atlanta gets past New York, I don't even know because I ain't seen the game, so I know the game's on now. I don't even know what the score. I'm still driving, as you can see. I think Atlanta might have a chance with that matchup if Embiid's not playing. So they could totally get past that round. Right now, I don't really have anybody beating Brooklyn, even though Brooklyn will be playing the Bucks. I just think it's too much scoring, and it's too much movement in Brooklyn for them to have. So, and when it comes down to it, I think Brooklyn has enough pieces to get to the finals. On the West, is shaky. The West is Portland, Denver, the Lakers. If the Lakers don't win tomorrow, it's over with. You know what I'm saying? But I have never betted against LeBron just because I've seen what he's done over every year. But obviously, he's much older now. AD has been hurt most of the year with like nagging injuries and stuff like that. So they might, if they get past Phoenix, which is going to be tough because they're going to have to win two games in a row, which is always hard to do in the playoffs. I don't see them going to the Western Conference Finals this year. Wow. I just think, too much, they're banged up. But if LeBron comes out being LeBron, who he's always been, then, they could go to another level. Dallas is a big game for Dallas tonight.
Yeah.
They started off strong, but I think now the Clippers have kind of figured how to stop Luka. So now it depends on what the other guys around Luka is going to be able to do. So, and then that Portland and Denver is a toss-up. I think that's one of the best playoff series going on right now, in my opinion.
So I want to ask you about your career. Obviously, you had an interesting career and a long journey. And obviously, who was your role model that you looked up to while in the NBA while working on your craft? And what were the main things that you learned as a high school player before heading into college?
I always looked up to my dad.
Yeah.
When it came to like everything, just because he's been through hell and back with the whole substance abuse and then coming back and changing people's lives and being the man he is. He's a great role model, on and off the court. So I've always looked up to him for, that role model, that hero person. But when it came to basketball, I did the same thing because he was the number one pick in the NBA. First point guard ever taken. So if I'm not picking his brain every day, then I'm not doing my job right. But when it comes to like players, I will always look at guys. I knew I wasn't going to be tall, so I would always look at like Damon Stoudemire, Muggsy Bogues, Spud Webb, John Stockton, Dano Barrows, who I kind of mimic my game behind. Players like that. Um, in today's game, if I was a young kid coming up, I'm looking at Steph, I'm looking at Kyrie, and I'll be looking at Trey and Chris Paul and Rondo. If I was coming up now, if I was in high school now.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So obviously the three of us had a chat.
And Dame.
Yeah.
Oh,
Two buzzer beaters last night. Two big shots last night. But we were talking a few days ago kind of about you growing up and you being that kid that despite, people saying don't go to that side of the town, you went over there. You wanted the competition. You wanted to be where kind of the fire was at. Talk about, of course, many years later, we found undrafted. Talk about that chip on your shoulder that, of course, you had the name Lucas, but at the same time, you got something to prove constantly. What's your mindset there, and what advice do you have for a kid maybe in that position?
Just don't duck competition. A lot of kids these days don't want to go play against whoever better than them or who they say is better than them because, to me, everything in life is about competition. I want to go wherever the best competition is at. If I'm at a gym and I'm the best person in that gym, it's time for me to go to a new gym. I don't want to be the best person in that gym. Why keep going to that gym every day and you're being the best person? Like, you're not getting better at your craft. You're not getting better as an individual basketball player. You're the man at that gym, but it's somebody across town or at another gym who's also the man at their gym. Why not try to go dethrone them or go against them? You know what I'm saying? So to me, I've always wanted to go wherever the best basketball was at. I didn't care where it was at. It could be in the middle of the projects. It didn't matter to me. If that ball is bouncing, I had to be there, and it had a chip on my shoulder because a lot of things in basketball for me was, even though my dad didn't run up and down the court for me or even shot the basketball for me when I was on the court, I've always used to hear like, oh, he only getting this because of who he is. He only getting this or who he's that. But like, my dad ain't scoring 31 points a game in high school. My dad don't average 11 assists in high school like I did that.
Right.
So the chip on my shoulder was always to protect my name. That was my biggest chip, was to protect my name. Because at the end of the day, my name holds weight, like a lot of weight. So I know that parents would hype their kids up to play against me just to say, oh yeah, my son, he did John Lucas's son. But that wasn't going to happen to me. So that was like the fuel and the fire to me. Was like, no, I'm really going to show you I am really him. Like, I'm going to stand on it. So that was like that edge I had when I was playing. And I took that with me in the league too. That same mentality.
So I want to ask, obviously you played with two different colleges and you played with a lot of teams throughout your career. So as a player, and obviously you played overseas too and the NBA, and as a player, how did you adapt and adjust for you moving from team to team and learning different cultures and obviously different personalities? And how did you deal with that?
I grew up like that. My dad got traded. My dad was coaching. So to me, it was just like, that was life. Like, I can go to any city and navigate my way around any city. It's just, it was tough on my sister, but with me and my little brother, we just looked at it like it was an adventure. Like, oh, okay, we're going to make new friends over here. Or we're going to go live in a whole nother city. They play way different basketball than they play over in Milwaukee. Now we living in Seattle. It's totally different. And, I can literally go to every probably major city that has an NBA team, and I would know somebody.
Right.
So when I got to the league, it just was like second nature. Oh, you got traded? Okay, or just pack up your stuff and go. I was just used to it as a kid. It wasn't like my wife. She didn't like the emotional roller coaster, like living, get settled in, and all of a sudden you get traded and stuff. To me, I was like, man, just pack this up. Like, let's go on to the next. Like, it was just like normal to me. I never. Everywhere I went, I never brought a house. I would just only get month to month because I didn't want to be locked, because any given day you can be cut or you can be traded. So I didn't want to be tied into a spot. Right. I know a lot of guys go out there and they are, oh, I get this spot, then they get traded. Now they got to sell that spot, or they got to pay the rest of the year for that spot. Why they got to go pay for a whole nother spot on the new team they at? So I've always was taught, man, just get a month to month. Like wherever you're gonna make home, that's where you buy your house. So wherever I spent my time in the summer, which was in Houston, that's where I brought my house. But everywhere else, I would literally stay at an extended stay, or I get a month to month fully furnished apartment. And then the only thing I came in there was with 2 bags of clothes. And then if I got cut or traded, I just packed those 2 bags and I'm out. I ain't got to worry about packing no furniture, no nothing, none of that. Everything comes in there, TV, all that. So that's how I went through my whole NBA, because I've always known you can get that phone call to say to tell you, hey Mo, hey babe, I'm on a Zoom call. My wife just pulled up on the side of me. I'm outside. But yeah, they sorry about that. They so I've always prepared myself for the worst, but I was always ready for it, you know. But like the basketball part was easy for me because I've been training like that my whole life. And the up and emotional roller coaster and all that, I was used to that because I grew up as a child in that environment, in that situation. So it didn't bother me as much as it bothers some other guys who, you know, because they always been in one city their whole life. Like me, I lived in Houston, DC, Milwaukee, San Antonio, Cleveland, Philly. Did I say Seattle already? I think I did. China. I was just talking about as a kid, all the cities I live in. Like if we talk about playing wise, Tulsa,
Toronto, Detroit.
Detroit, yeah, like Udine in Italy, Treviso in Italy, Victoria in Spain, Shanghai, Fujian, yeah. Like you can go on Fort Wayne, like you can go on and on. So it was just, to me, I just always looked at it as a like an adventure, and I was just like, I just love basketball so much that wherever that opportunity was gonna present itself for me, I was gonna go.
Let's talk about college for a second. So obviously the Baylor Bears was the first step. First of all, you're champions now. I remember being out there and covering that. Baylor Bears, Sikkim Bears Nation is the real deal. Talk about how exciting that was just kind of a couple months ago to see your alma mater get that championship.
Well, that's not really my alma mater. I was only there for 2 years, and the 2 years I was there when the whole scandal and the whole murder happened. So I don't really associate myself with Baylor. I disconnected with Baylor the day I walked off of campus to go to Oklahoma State. But I am excited for them for winning the championship, without a doubt, just because of everything that program has been through since that 02 year. And all the football, like just everything that's going on at Baylor, it was good to see, you know, a little bit of a light on, you know, especially for everything that coach has been through by stepping in and the position he was in, being, you know, suspended from the NCAA for a couple of years, like couldn't compete in the tournament, and just, you know, going out and building a team. That was, you know, I tipped my hat off to him, and he went through the whole process, and guess what? Now he's a national champion. So that was big. So I was excited for them. I don't even say I went. I tell people when they ask me my journey, then I mention Baylor, but a lot of people don't even remember when I went to Baylor, because it was, you know, they mostly remember it from Oklahoma State, honestly. So my college days I love. My Baylor days not so much, but when I got to Oklahoma State, I fell back in love with basketball. I fell back in love with just being a kid at college. Like, to me at Baylor, I kind of lost my ways in a lot of ways because I wasn't enjoying myself because of, you know, the coaching and what was going on there. It was just I kind of got to like a dark place, not like crazy, but I just didn't hang with nobody. If you wasn't a family member of mine or if you wasn't one of my childhood friends, like I just stayed. I was a loner when I was at Baylor. I just stayed to myself.
Interesting. So I want to ask you this. So, what did you like about playing overseas in China, and what was that like, and what did you experience over there?
I hated it at first. I'm not even gonna. I never been out the country before.
Oh, wow.
So it was a culture shock for me. So I didn't even have a passport. Like literally, like when I left the Rockets after my 2 10 days, and I went back to the G League my rookie year, where it was the D League at the time. Then a team in Italy called me just for the playoffs, and I was like, Italy, you know what I'm saying? I know they got good food because I like Italian food, so I was like, okay. But like when I got there, I was like literally about to. I stayed at my apartment. I couldn't understand nothing on TV. I couldn't like I opened the window because I was trying, but overseas they put metal sheets over to keep the sun out.
Yeah.
So when I opened the window, I just saw a metal sheet. I was like, man, what the is this? Like what is going on? Like I didn't know press a button, it rises up. Like that's their blind. But you know, I never been out of the country. So I literally called my dad. I was like, yo, I'm coming home. Like they can keep this money. Like it ain't happening. Like, I'm good. I'm gonna get back on that 12-hour flight and come home and just get ready for summer league. And he was like, man, just go to your first practice. Because he knew if I got around ball, he knew I was going to stick it out. So I went to my first practice and, you know, it was cool. It was still an adjustment for me, but it was cool. And then the second time I went, I took well, she was my girlfriend at the time, but she's my wife now.
Mm-hmm.
She went with me, and she's always traveled the world. So it was easier when I went with somebody because you know we got to experience like the Coliseum. We went to Rome. We went to Venice. Like we actually was. I was like driving to these places I used to read about in history. Then I start opening my mind of like, oh, okay, because I didn't know if I was gonna get back in the NBA. I was like, okay, like this is cool. Like the ball, money's good. I get to see stuff I read about in the history books, you know. So after that, yeah, I was more prone to being open to being overseas, and that's when I started really enjoying myself by being overseas. Honestly.
Just a follow up though, like for your father, what was it like having your father by your side the whole time? Obviously, an NBA experience, a coach there now too, and just to keep pushing you and motivating you throughout your career. What was it like just to have him by your side the whole time?
Well, my dad's always been my dad. Like he didn't really get hands on with me in basketball until my junior year in high school. I had other coaches. He wanted me to listen to other voices, and when it was time for him, and I say put his salt on me, he was like, all right, now this is I'm gonna tap out the recipe. But I had other voices and other people that trained with me, and even a lot of schools I went to from high school, middle school, a lot of coaches were scared to coach me because of, you know, my dad knows the game and stuff. And to me, I just wanted to be coached by whoever. So my dad used to tell the coaches like, no, he's yours. Like I'm dad. Like I'm gonna sit in the stands in the game and I'm watching the game. I'm enjoying the game. Like you don't gotta worry about me coaching from the sideline. He knows not to look at me during the game. So he's always been dad to me when I was playing all the way up until my junior year. Then he became like that mentor that okay, this is what you want to do, this is what it's gonna take. Then he started dropping the jewels like that to me. So I really appreciated that because I see a lot of kids who only listen to their dad who's their trainers, right. And it's hard for them to start listening to other coaches because they think they know, you know, their dad is know whatever, but then you're never gonna play for your dad in college, or you're not gonna play for him at the next level you get there. So you're gonna have to kind of open yourself up to accept different terminology, different strategies, and different styles of coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to know now, obviously, you are that trainer for that next kid. You're kind of guiding them through that journey on the basketball side of things. Let's talk about being that mentor for them, because you've talked about that too, is being a mentor on top of a coach. What's it like to be able to have seen that process and guide this kid on here's what's next and kind of experience that process with them?
Man, that's the joy about it, man. I love what I'm doing now. Because I'm changing lives. I see it. Kids to me are like sponges. They soaking up everything, and I think it's on not just me, but like former players and guys who's actually done this at a high level and actually done it to where they can actually.
Oh.
Hello, I'm sorry, you got a phone call. So they can actually understand, the do's and the don'ts. Like, don't make this mistake that I made. Like, I can actually tell them, like, this is what we got to do, But the joy is when you see a kid, right, who barely could do a lot of things, and then you've been in the gym with him, and you done seen his grind, and you done seen his hustle, you done seen all this, and now when you go see him play, you be like, oh, like, that's my biggest fulfillment. Like, when I work with my kids, it's like, oh my God, like look how far he's came. Like we still got ways to go, but just look how much, when you put the time and the work in, like you're gonna get everything out of it. That's my biggest joy when it comes to player development and teaching. Like I work with pros too, but I'm not really teaching a pro how to be a pro. They already pros. Mm-hmm. You really out there just rebounding and okay, let's work on this and you do that. But like, when you work with grassroots, from like my youngest kid is 7 years old that I work with.
Wow.
And he's already knowing the terminology of basketball. Okay, if your teammate drives baseline, where do you go? I drift to the corner. He's 7. I got a lot of high school kids that don't know that. That been through training with multiple trainers and been through high school basketball. And I'd be like, man, baseline drive, baseline drift. They're like, what's that? I'm like, what? What you mean? What you mean? If your teammate drives baseline, you got to give them an outlet. Yeah. Right. So you got to go. If you're on the weak side, you got to go to the corner. And so my kids that's 7, 8, 9 years old know more than my high school kids that's 15, 16, 17 years old that's about to go to college. So just imagine when they're that age, the game is going to be so much easier for them, and the game's going to be slower for them because they know where to be at all times on the court. With the ball and without the ball.
I got to follow up on that. If you were to coach your younger self, say you could have the opportunity to go back and coach your high school version of yourself, what would you tell that kid the most as far as the mentoring side of things?
To be more of a point guard. To learn to know the balance. Like right now, I've always said this, and I see this so many times. When you retire, you become so much a better basketball player than you was when you was actually playing, because the game gets slower and slower to you, and then you know what to look for. And 9 times out of 10, you're playing against younger guys. Like when I play pickup basketball against the younger guys, I be destroying them because I just know where to be and where to go. So they be like, man, why you retire? I'm like, first of all, I'm 38 years old. I'll be 39 this year. I can still move. I can still got the handles and the jump shot. I just get to my spots. So a lot of guys don't know where their spots are on the court. So I use Devin Booker as an example, right? Devin Booker's spots are the elbow, mid range on the base, mid range on the left baseline, but corner three, wing threes. Who game is he mimicking?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you all, who game is he mimicking?
Kobe.
Oh, Kobe.
Huh?
Kobe. Right?
Exactly. So, yes. And like kids don't watch the game today, so they don't understand. Like Devin Booker has trained himself to try to master the spots on the court. So if you watch the games, he's getting to those spots every time. Right. Chris Paul is getting to his spots every time. There's nothing special about what they're doing. They're just getting to their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And you and I both know that when you're at your comfort zone, you're always going to succeed because that's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. So a couple more things here before we let you go. What would you say what was your favorite city to play in while you were in the NBA? And obviously, you got to play with the Bulls. And what was it like wearing that jersey and then the same jersey as Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and you played with D Rose. So what was it like playing with him?
Well, I mean, that's all great. Like, just putting an NBA jersey was the most exciting thing for me, because that was my ultimate goal. Like, I never came in the NBA saying I want to win a championship.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, I came in the NBA and said, look, I want to make the NBA. I want to play in the NBA, and I want to play like 10 years or higher. That was my goal. Now, if I was to get a championship out of it, then that would have been a bonus. But that wasn't my goal to make them. My goal was to make the NBA and have longevity in it. To put the jersey, my favorite place playing was Chicago, because we was winning, great group of guys. They really, we really built a brotherhood. A lot of them was at my wedding. I was at their weddings. I train most of their kids now. Rip Hamilton kids train with me every Tuesday, Thursday. Little Scotty's training with me now from Vanderbilt. So I see Pip every day. Out here, I see Rip every day. I train little D Rose, PJ. These are my colleagues that they know my work ethic and they know the passion I have for the kids and stuff. That the beauty part for me is like they trust me.
Right.
They know their kids are learning the right way, because the hardest thing, and I tell them the truth. Like I tell PJ, I tell Rip Hamilton kids, I was like, look, man, y'all don't realize you already have a target on y'all's back because of your last name.
Mm-hmm.
So if you decide to do this, you got to go 10 times, maybe 20 times harder than anybody. This is how I talk to them, because I was there. I was them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We get everything. We get everything. You want shoes? We get shoes every 2 weeks from Nike, Jordan, whoever your family like. You get everything. You got access to cryo chamber, whatever you want as an NBA kid, right? And then when you're going and playing, they're never gonna say PJ Rose is cold. They're gonna be like, oh, he doing this because of D Rose. You know what I'm saying? He getting all these accolades and all that, and they're not really watching this kid play. Like, he gonna be straight. But the mindset of like, and if you're not mentally strong for like stuff like that, that will beat you down. And the funny thing is not even the kids, it's the parents.
Right.
The parents are the worst one of the kids you're playing against. So it's like with me growing up, I just wanted all the smoke because I knew I could handle it. I got strong shoulders. So everything parents used to, they used to bring up my dad's drug problems to me when I was playing in the game. I never forget this. I was like 13 years old. No, I was 14. I was a freshman in high school, and I shot a 3, and my foot was on the line. And a parent, I'm 14 years old. A parent told me, "Oh, you're a Lucas. You used to the line." Like, now you talking about my dad's drug problem. I'm not stupid. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I couldn't rather like you're like 50, 60 years old, and you're telling a kid who's 14 years old that. And so my anger, yeah, did I want to go in the stands and fight him? Yeah, but that's not going to get nothing done. So what I did, I just took it out on his son on the court. And every time I scored, I said, that's right, I am a Lucas. Buckets. That's right, I am a Lucas. But to where he was just like, my biggest joy was when the dad put his head down because he was seeing his son getting destroyed. And the son had no idea why this was happening to him. And I used to be like, your daddy made that happen. That's why you're getting this punishment. That was my fuel and my, like, you know what I'm saying? How you ever heard somebody say, let a sleeping giant sleep? You like, don't wake up that beast. Like, yeah. If you say something slick to me, or you say something like competitive or this or that, you're waking that person up inside of me that I don't know how to turn it off.
Call it the mama mentality.
I don't care what you call it. I just call it like tapping into something that fuels you, where you take yourself to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And I tell the kids like Josh Christopher, we had a shooting contest. He was, oh, I'll shoot you. I was like, okay. I didn't miss a shot. I hit 63s in a row.
Wow.
I just tapped in because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show you why I'm him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm that competitive. Where I was locked in, like I'm getting ready for a game 7 of the playoff game. Like, to me, every shot counts. Like, I know how to tap into something like that. Well, now every time I touch the ball, it's the same shot over and over and over again. Like, I'm really gonna show you why I am who I am.
Hmm.
To where he's like, yo, that was amazing. Like, I never seen nothing like that. And I was like, you caused me to get there. You know what I'm saying? Like to where I didn't even talk to him after because I was so competitive. I was like, oh, he really called me out. Like, that's how compare. And I'm not getting ready for the draft. I'm not about to go play nowhere. But if you call me out, I've always kept a pair of tennis shoes in my car because I love to play. I would literally go get my shoes, lace them up, and we're playing.
Wow.
That's amazing. I do want to ask. You work with, of course, play with D Rose, and I work with his son. But D Rose is an example of a player, of course, who has his game has changed. It's not what you saw earlier, where he would do all the flashy dunks and all of these freakishly athletic plays, but yet he can still go 30. And that was one of my favorite conversations was with him because he talked about the ups and the downs. This was when he was back in Detroit, and that journey is something that was really, really cool to hear. Can you talk about how the game changes and how you change as a person? Because you, of course, had a long pro career. How do things change over those years?
I mean, you just get smarter. Obviously, you know, with the injuries D Rose had, he didn't change his game. He just changed the way he looked at the game. Right? Floaters, he still got all that. Finishing at the rim, he has a lot more mid range, and he started working on his jump shot. He didn't rely a lot on his athleticism. Everybody knows once your athleticism leave you, and your skill levels now up to par, then you're probably not gonna play that much longer. So D just started working on his skills. He was enhancing his skills level to where he's still one of the top PGs in the game right now. Even though people be like, oh, he's not the D Rose of 2010. You name one person who is the same person back in the day.
Right.
If anything, to me, he's playing better basketball now than he did in 2010, in my opinion. Just because he's overall rounded right now. He can shoot. He can still make other people around him better. He can change. He can impact the game without scoring a lot of points. When he was in Chicago, he scored a lot of points. That's what made his game so impactful. But now he can impact the game without scoring a lot of points. And that's what a lot of people who don't know the game, they be like, oh, well, he not like he was like D Rose 2010. I'm like, he's actually better.
Yeah.
If you sit down and watch him play, he's actually a better player. Like some of the stuff he was getting away with in Chicago, he took tough shots. He wasn't as efficient. You know, now he's one of the most efficient players that's on the court by his minutes. If you go look at his stats, pull him up. He's like top 10.
Yeah, he obviously he's having a great playoff so far this year with the Knicks, and I'm hoping they survive for another day tonight. But D Rose is a great example for a inspiring story here. But before we get to the last two things, who do you have in the finals this year? I know that you haven't been watching East Coast games, but who do you have in the finals?
I said it's either gonna be Brooklyn in the East, and in the West, that's the one that's a toss up. You never know. I don't know. Like I think everybody's pretty much on the same playing level. One thing about the playoffs, you know, you gotta play their team 7 times. You gotta beat them 4 times, but every game's a different adjustment. So it's just about who gonna really hit shots and who can stop the other team with their schemes, and that goes from coaching and also the players toning in. So I can't really give you the West. I know in the East, I think it's going to be Brooklyn, and I'm not saying that because they got KD and I just it's hard to guard that when the court's so spread open like that.
So,
and I think Milwaukee's going to run into a problem. Is not enough scoring and not enough a lot of shot makers on that team. And if Giannis, which has been proven all these years, he don't have a jump shot, and in the playoffs, that paint is packed and there's not as many transition buckets, so that takes away a lot of his game.
I will say with the Bucks, Bryn Forbes has come alive recently as far as shooting goes. I remember I'm in Michigan, so I remember his Michigan State days where he would light it up. So it's cool to see that again in Milwaukee. And I think the free throw situation for Giannis, as far as the whole 10-second things, it's interesting. Some people have said when he tries to, do it quicker, when he takes too long, it screws it up. So we'll see. Maybe he obviously has to work on that side, the
Yeah.
free throws.
Yeah,
With the
yeah, he
last,
does.
mhm. Wait, what were you gonna say?
No, I say he does. I was just agreeing with him.
Yeah, so the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking. So we're trying to make sure the community stays safe and the kids stay safe. So I'll send you the page so you can check it out. We're really grateful to be part of the foundation, and hopefully we can stop this human trafficking because it's still horrible out there. And so this foundation is doing great things. So I'll send you the page. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Man, I just, with everything that's been going on in the world, those have really been the front line. With them, you know, is what can you not say? Like I tip my hat off to them. I have a lot of friends that's doctors and nurses and that was in the hospital when coronavirus was at an all-time high, who was going to work, who was making sure, who was sleeping in tents in their house so they wouldn't, if they contracted the virus from work, they wasn't giving it to the rest of their families, like sacrificing their family time and stuff and the way they was living to help other people get better. What can you not say about them? So I've always tipped my hat off every time I see one of my friends who's a doctor or a nurse and all that. I've always been like, yo, thank you, because at the end of the day, like they was warning us, but they was also in the front line putting their lives at jeopardy trying to save other people. So that just shows what type of people they are, to being able to do that. So I've always tipped my hat off to like officers and firemen and because at the end of the day, I know a lot of things in the media and a lot of stuff, happens occasionally when it comes to stuff like that, but they're still out there putting their lives on the line every day so we can feel safe.
Yeah, well said. And there it is. This wraps up episode 806 for the NR Hour Sports Show, joined by former NBA player John Lucas III. Obviously, now he trains young kids. He's a basketball training coach now. Go follow him on all social media formats. He does an awesome job. And thank you again for joining us today. And just truly an honor. And keep up the great work. And we'd like to have you back as a returning guest so you can meet the full team at some point. But enjoy the rest of the playoffs. Continue training these kids hard. And hopefully you get an opportunity to be a coach one day in the NBA or somewhere. But you and your family stay safe.
All right, you too. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, no
be
problem.
safe.
Yep.
All right.